The alarm bells rang through the Altarian Defense Fleet Command Center. Red lights flashed across every screen as the duty officer ran toward Commander Vex with a datapad in his hands. His face was pale and his hands shook as he handed over the report. "Commander, we have a problem. A big one," the officer said, trying to catch his breath. "The mining colony on Kepler 442b just went dark, but before it did, our sensors picked up energy readings that should be impossible." Vex took the datapad and looked at the numbers. His eyes grew wide. The energy signature was stronger than their most powerful weapons. It was the kind of reading they would expect from a star-going supernova, not from a simple mining operation on a remote planet. "How many people were on that colony?" Vex asked. 2,000 miners and their families, plus about 500 security guards and support staff," the officer replied. "The colony was mining rare metals for the Galactic Trade Network. Nothing dangerous, nothing that could create readings like this." Vex stood up from his chair and walked to the main viewing screen. The image showed Kepler 442b floating in space. It looked peaceful from this distance. "Too peaceful. Get my ship ready. We leave in 1 hour," Vex ordered. "Bring a full investigation team. Medical staff, engineers, weapons experts. I want answers." "Sir, should we contact the Galactic Council? If someone is testing illegal weapons out there?" "Not yet. Let us see what we are dealing with first. If this is what I think it might be, the fewer people who know about it, the better." 3 hours later, Vex's ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Kepler 442b. The planet looked normal from space, but as they got closer, they could see the damage. The colony's main buildings were destroyed. Huge pieces of metal and concrete were scattered across the landscape like toys thrown by an angry child. "Captain Dara, what are the sensors telling us?" Vex asked his second-in-command. Dara was a skilled officer who had served with Vex for 10 years. She never panicked, but now her voice was tight with worry. "The defensive grid is completely gone, sir. These weren't small explosions. Something tore through reinforced barriers that were designed to stop planetary bombardment. The energy patterns suggest the destruction came from inside the colony, not from an outside attack." "Life signs?" "One human. Male. He appears to be in the central cafeteria area. He is alive and his vital signs are normal." Vex felt a chill run down his spine. One survivor out of 2,500 people. That was not normal. That was not possible unless something very bad had happened here. "Prepare a landing team. Full protective gear. I want weapons ready but not drawn. If this human survived whatever happened here, we need to find out how." 20 minutes later, Vex and his team walked through the ruins of the mining colony. The damage was worse up close. Thick metal walls had been torn apart as if they were made of paper. Security doors that could stop tank rounds were twisted into strange shapes. Most disturbing of all, there were no bodies, no blood. No signs of what had happened to all the people who lived and worked here. They found the human in the cafeteria, just as the sensors had indicated. He was sitting at a table eating food from a ration pack. He looked to be in his 30s with dark hair and calm brown eyes. He wore the simple gray jumpsuit of a maintenance worker. His name tag read Marcus Webb. Marcus looked up as the team entered the room. He did not seem surprised to see them. He did not seem afraid. He just kept eating his meal as if alien soldiers pointing scanning devices at him was a normal part of his day. "Hello," Marcus said in a friendly voice. "I guess you are here about what happened to the colony." Vex stepped forward, keeping his hand near his weapon. Something about this human made him nervous, though he could not say exactly what it was. "I am Commander Vex of the Altarian Defense Fleet." "What happened here, human? Where is everyone?" Marcus put down his spoon and looked directly at Vex. "Void hunters attacked the colony 3 days ago. Nasty creatures. Very fast, very hungry. They took everyone except me." The entire landing team exchanged glances. Dara stepped forward and activated her scanning device. "Sir, void hunters are mythical creatures. They exist only in old stories told to children. They have been extinct for 300 years if they ever existed at all." Marcus shrugged. "Tell that to the colony. The security footage should show what happened if the recording systems still work." Vex ordered his technical team to check the security systems while he continued questioning Marcus. The human seemed too calm for someone who had just survived a massacre. Too relaxed for someone surrounded by armed aliens. "How did you survive when 2,500 other people did not?" Vex asked. "Lucky, I guess. I was working in the lower maintenance tunnels when they attacked. By the time I got to the surface, it was over. And the energy readings our sensors detected, Marcus looked confused. What energy readings? I am just a maintenance worker. I fix air recyclers and water pumps. I do not know anything about energy weapons or whatever you think happened here. 30 minutes later, the technical team returned with the security footage. What they found made no sense. The recordings showed Marcus moving through the colony during the time when the attack supposedly happened. But there were no void hunters, no monsters, no other people at all. Just Marcus walking calmly through corridors that were being destroyed around him. In one recording, Marcus approached a security barrier that was designed to stop military attacks. The footage showed him placing his hand on the metal wall. A few seconds later, the entire barrier exploded outward, leaving a perfect hole where Marcus had touched it. Human, Vex said, his voice hard and cold. You are under arrest for the murder of 2,500 colonists. You will come with us for questioning. Marcus stood up slowly. As he did, something changed in his eyes. They began to glow with a soft blue light that seemed to come from deep inside his skull. Commander Vex, Marcus said, his voice still calm but somehow different, more dangerous. I told you the truth about the Void Hunters, and I'm about to prove it to you. The ship's long-range sensors began screaming warnings. Dara ran to check the readings, her face going pale as she read the data. Sir, we have multiple contacts approaching fast. Very fast. Energy signatures match nothing in our databases. They will be here in less than 10 minutes. Marcus nodded as if he had been expecting this news. The blue glow in his eyes grew brighter. Void hunters can smell fear and death from light years away. This colony was like a dinner bell to them. And now they know fresh prey has arrived. Vex felt his blood turn cold. What are you talking about, human? Marcus walked toward the door, and the landing team unconsciously stepped aside to let him pass. Something about his presence had changed. He no longer seemed like a simple maintenance worker. He seemed like something much more dangerous. You might want to evacuate your people, Commander, Marcus said as the blue light in his eyes began to pulse. When humans get cornered, we tend to break things. Outside the colony, dark shapes began dropping from the sky like falling stars. They moved too fast for the naked eye to follow clearly. But Vex could see enough to know that Marcus had been telling the truth. The Void Hunters were real and they were coming. At its strongest, the story of that damned human. The first Void Hunter hit the ground outside the cafeteria with a sound like thunder. Through the broken windows, Vex could see a creature that should not exist. It stood 9 feet tall on legs like twisted metal. Its body was covered in black scales that seemed to absorb light. Most terrifying of all were its claws, which glowed with the same blue energy that now filled Marcus's eyes. Everyone back to the ship now, Vex ordered his team. Full retreat, but it was too late. 3 more Void Hunters landed between the landing team and their shuttle. The creatures moved faster than anything Vex had ever seen. One moment they were still. The next they were charging forward with claws extended. Dara fired her weapon at the nearest hunter. The energy blast that could punch through a tank's armor hit the creature square in the chest. The bolt simply disappeared into its black scales without leaving a mark. Weapons are useless, she shouted over the sound of the attack. These things absorb energy. The first hunter reached Sergeant Mills, Vex's best soldier. Mills tried to dodge, but the creature was too fast. Its claw sliced through Mills's armor like it was made of soft cloth. Mills screamed and fell to the ground, bleeding from a wound that went from his shoulder to his hip. That was when Marcus moved. The human maintenance worker stepped between the Void Hunter and the injured soldier, but he was no longer moving like a normal human. He was faster than the creature, faster than anything Vex had ever seen. Marcus grabbed the hunter's claw as it swung toward Mills again. The moment Marcus touched the creature, blue energy erupted from his hands. The Void Hunter, which had absorbed Dara's weapon blast without damage, began to dissolve. Its black scales turned to ash and blew away in the wind. In 3 seconds, the 9-foot monster was gone. Marcus turned toward the other Void Hunters. His eyes were now blazing with blue light so bright it hurt to look at. When he spoke, his voice carried a power that made the air itself vibrate. You made a mistake coming here, Marcus said to the creatures. Humans do not like bullies. What happened next would stay in Vex's nightmares for the rest of his life. Marcus fought the Void Hunters with his bare hands. He moved like physics did not apply to him, jumping 30 feet in the air, punching through solid stone. Moving so fast he appeared in multiple places at once. When a hunter tried to slash him with its claws, Marcus caught its arm and the blue energy flowing from his hands simply unmade the creature. When another tried to bite him, Marcus grabbed its jaws and pulled them apart. The sound was like a mountain breaking. In less than 5 minutes, 6 void hunters lay dead around the ruined cafeteria. Marcus stood in the center of the destruction, breathing hard but not injured. The blue light in his eyes was fading, but it did not disappear completely. "Medical team, help Sergeant Mills," Vex ordered, though he could not take his eyes off Marcus. "Dara, start scanning this human. I want to know what he is." As the medical team worked on Mills, Dara ran every scan she could think of. The results made no sense. Marcus's cellular structure was human, but there were extra components that did not match any known biology. His brain showed activity patterns that were impossible for any organic mind. Most disturbing of all, the scanners detected energy sources inside his body that could power a small city. "Sir," Dara said quietly, "this is not a normal human. Whatever he is, our databases have no record of anything like him." Marcus walked over to where they were treating Mills. The soldier was badly hurt, but he would live thanks to Marcus's intervention. "Thank you," Mills said weakly. "You saved my life." Marcus knelt down beside the injured soldier. "Do not thank me yet. There are more of them coming. A lot more." Vex felt his blood run cold. "How many more?" "The pack that attacked the colony had about 50 members. I killed most of them, but some escaped. They went to call for help." Marcus stood up and looked at the sky. "Maybe 200 void hunters are heading this way. Maybe more. We need to evacuate immediately," Vex said. "Get everyone back to the ship." But as they carried Mills toward the shuttle, Dara's scanner began picking up something else. She was receiving data from the ship's main computer. Someone was accessing classified files in the Galactic Council database. "Sir, someone is breaking into restricted files about humans. The access codes are from inside our own ship." Vex grabbed his communicator. "Security team, report. Is there an intruder on the ship?" "No, sir, all areas secure. But the computer is accessing files on its own. The search terms are about something called apex events and human genetic modification." Dara's scanner displayed the files as they were accessed. What she read made her hands shake. The documents were marked with the highest security classifications. They talked about humans hiding their true nature from the galaxy for hundreds of years. They mentioned genetic experiments done on humans by an unknown alien race. Most shocking of all, they described events where humans had displayed abilities that defied all known science. "Marcus," Vex said slowly, "what are apex events?" Marcus stopped walking and turned to face the commander. For the first time since they had met him, he looked uncertain, worried. "I do not remember," Marcus said, "but I think I am starting to." As he spoke, images flashed through Marcus's mind. He saw himself as a younger man working on a deep space engineering project. He remembered pirates attacking his ship. He remembered being afraid for his life. And then he remembered something changing inside him. Something waking up that had been sleeping in his genes for his entire life. He remembered killing 30 armed pirates with nothing but maintenance tools and his bare hands. He remembered moving faster than human reflexes should allow. He remembered being stronger than any normal person could be. Most of all, he remembered the people in black uniforms who came for him after the attack. They said they were from something called Threshold Division. They said they were there to help him. The last thing he remembered was a needle going into his arm and everything going dark. "They erased my memories," Marcus said, his voice filled with anger. "Someone made me forget what I really am." Vex's communicator crackled with a new transmission. The voice that came through was female, cold, and completely confident. "Commander Vex, this is Director Kane of Threshold Division. You have something that belongs to us. Prepare for immediate boarding. Do not attempt to resist." High above them, a ship uncloaked. It was black as space itself and covered in technology that Vex did not recognize. As they watched, smaller ships launched from the main vessel and began descending toward the planet. Marcus looked up at the approaching ships. The blue light in his eyes began to grow brighter again. "Director Kane," he said quietly. "I remember that name now, and I remember what she did to me." The blue energy around Marcus began to pulse faster. Deep in space, the approaching Threshold Division ships suddenly found their instruments going crazy. Energy readings that should have been impossible were coming from the planet below. On the main ship, Director Kane smiled. After 15 years of searching, she had finally found her lost weapon. But as she watched the energy readings spike higher and higher, her smile began to fade. Marcus was not just waking up. He was evolving. At its strongest, the story of that damned human director Helena Kane stepped out of her transport ship like she owned the planet. She was a tall woman with silver hair and eyes that seemed to see everything at once. Behind her came soldiers wearing black armor that absorbed light like the Void Hunter's scales. Their weapons hummed with energy that made Vex's teeth ache. "Commander Vex," Kane said in a voice that could cut steel, "you have interfered with a classified human operation. Hand over the subject immediately and we might let you keep your ship." Vex stepped forward, his hand on his weapon. "This is Altarian space. You have no authority here." Kane smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "I have the only authority that matters. The authority to keep the galaxy safe from what humans really are." She gestured toward Marcus, who stood 30 feet away watching the exchange. The blue light in his eyes had dimmed, but it was still there, waiting. "Do you know what you are protecting, Commander? That man is not human anymore. He is something far more dangerous, something that could destroy your entire civilization without breaking a sweat." "He saved my soldiers from the Void Hunters," Vex replied. "He protected us, yes he did. And that is exactly what makes him so terrifying." Kane pulled out a small device and activated a holographic display. "Let me show you what your hero really is." The hologram showed Marcus 15 years ago, working on a deep space mining platform. He looked younger, happier, completely normal. Then the image changed to show the same platform under attack by pirates. 30 armed criminals had boarded the station, planning to steal valuable minerals and kill the workers. The next part of the recording made Vex's blood run cold. Marcus, armed only with a wrench and a welding torch, had killed all 30 pirates in less than 10 minutes. He moved like a force of nature, breaking steel with his hands, jumping impossible distances, moving so fast the cameras could barely track him. "The first Apex event," Kane explained. "When a human faces extreme danger, their genetic programming activates. They become living weapons designed by an alien race that died out millions of years ago. We call them the Architects." "That is impossible," Dara said. "Humans are from Earth, they evolved naturally." Kane laughed. "That is what we want everyone to believe. The truth is that humans are artificial, created beings designed for one purpose, to fight threats that normal life forms cannot handle." She showed them more recordings. A human woman named Lisa Torres who had lifted a crashed shuttle off trapped colonists. The shuttle weighed 40 tons. A man called Robert Kim, who had survived in deep space without a suit for 6 hours, somehow drawing oxygen directly from cosmic radiation. "We have been finding and containing these people for 300 years. Kane continued, "Erasing their memories, placing them in safe jobs where they cannot trigger another Apex event. All to keep the galaxy from learning what humanity really is." Marcus stepped forward. As he moved, Kane's soldiers raised their weapons, but she held up a hand to stop them. "I remember now," Marcus said. "You came to my rescue ship after the pirate attack. You said you were from Earth government, there to help trauma victims. You drugged me and stole 20 years of my life." "We gave you 20 years of peace," Kane replied. 20 years where you did not have to be a monster. You should thank us, and thank you." The blue light in Marcus's eyes began to pulse faster. "You turned me into a tool. You planted me on that mining colony like bait to attract the Void Hunters." Kane nodded without shame. "The Hunters were heading toward populated systems. We needed to draw them to an isolated location where we could study them. Your presence was the perfect lure." Vex felt sick. "You sacrificed 2,500 innocent people just to study monsters? Those people died to save billions more. The Void Hunters were just the beginning, Commander. Our deep space sensors have detected something much worse heading this way." A Devour fleet. The name hit Vex like a physical blow. Devour fleets were legend, stories told to frighten young soldiers. Massive bioships that consumed entire star systems, leaving nothing but empty space behind them. "The Devourers have been extinct for 1,000 years, Dara said, but her voice shook with uncertainty. "They were hibernating," Kane corrected, "and something has woken them up. 3 star systems have gone dark in the past month. We have maybe 6 weeks before they reach the core worlds." She gestured toward Marcus again. "We need him awake and operational. A single Apex human can do things that entire fleets cannot, but only if he stops fighting what he really is." Marcus laughed, but the sound had no humor in it. "You want me to be your weapon? After what you did to me, after what you did to those colonists, I want you to save the galaxy," Kane replied. "Even if it means working with people you hate. And if I refuse?" Kane's smile returned, cold and sharp. Then I will show you what happens when humans stop holding back entirely. She raised her hand and energy began to flow around her fingers. Not the blue light that came from Marcus, but something different. Something that made the air itself twist and bend. You see, Marcus, you are not the only apex human we have found. I triggered my first event 50 years ago. And unlike you, I never let anyone make me forget what I am. The energy around Kane's hand grew brighter. Vex could feel it pulling at him, trying to tear apart the molecules in his body. This was power beyond anything in the Altarian military arsenal. The difference between us, Kane continued, is that I learned to control my abilities. You are still fighting yours, still pretending to be human when you are so much more. Marcus stepped closer to Kane, and Vex could see the blue light spreading from his eyes to cover his entire body. Maybe I do not want to be more than human. Then you will watch everything you care about die. The Devourers do not negotiate. They do not take prisoners. They consume everything living and leave dead worlds behind them. Kane deactivated the energy around her hand and pulled out another device. This one projected images of deep space, showing massive dark shapes moving between stars. 12 bioships, each one the size of a moon. They have already consumed the Helix Nebula colonies. 60 billion people gone in 3 days. The combined galactic fleet could not even slow them down. Vex stared at the images in horror. He had never seen ships that large. They looked more like living creatures than machines with surfaces that pulsed like beating hearts. Why should I trust you? Marcus asked. After everything you have done? Because I am the only one who knows how to stop them, Kane replied. And because deep down you know I am right. You felt it when you fought the Void Hunters. You felt how good it was to stop holding back to use your real strength. The blue light around Marcus flickered. For a moment, Vex thought he was going to attack Kane. Instead, Marcus closed his eyes and took a deep breath. If I do this, if I help you fight these Devourers, you will let me choose what happens next. No more memory wipes. No more controlling my life, Kane nodded. If we survive, you will be free to make your own choices. And my friends here? Marcus gestured toward Vex and his team. They can come with us. They have seen too much to leave behind anyway. Marcus looked at Vex. Commander, you do not have to be part of this. You can take your ship and go back to your people. Vex thought about the images of the Devour fleet. He thought about 60 billion people dead in 3 days. He thought about what would happen if those bioships reached Altarian space. If these Devourers are real, then this is everyone's fight, Vex said. My ship and crew are at your disposal. Kane's cold smile widened. Excellent. We leave in 1 hour. And Marcus, what? You might want to prepare yourself. The Devourers can sense apex humans from light years away. They will be coming for you specifically. As Kane walked back toward her ship, Marcus felt something change inside him again. The blue light in his eyes grew brighter, and for the first time in 15 years, he stopped fighting what he was becoming. At its strongest, the story of that damned human, the Devour fleet arrived at the edge of the Kepler system like a plague of living darkness. From the bridge of Kane's command ship, Vex watched the bioships drop out of faster-than-light travel. Each one was the size of a small moon, covered in what looked like black flesh that pulsed with its own heartbeat. 12 ships, Dara reported from her station. Energy readings are off the charts. These things are not just ships, they are alive. Kane stood at the center of the bridge, her hands dancing over holographic controls that Vex had never seen before. The Devourers are not from our galaxy originally. They are refugees from a war they lost billions of years ago. But instead of learning from defeat, they decided to feed on other civilizations to grow stronger. The main viewing screen showed the combined galactic fleet moving to intercept the bioships. Hundreds of warships from a dozen different species formed attack formations. Their weapons began firing at maximum range, sending enough energy to vaporize a planet toward the Devourers. The energy beams hit the bioships and simply disappeared. The dark flesh absorbed every blast without showing any damage at all. Adaptive hull plating, Kane explained. The Devourers learn from each attack and become immune to it. Conventional weapons are useless against them. Marcus stood near the back of the bridge, the blue light in his eyes now a constant glow. Since agreeing to help Kane, he had been struggling with memories that were flooding back. Not just his own memories, but something deeper. Knowledge that felt like it came from somewhere else entirely. The architects, Marcus said suddenly. I can remember them now. They created humans to fight things like this. Kane turned to look at him. Your genetic programming is activating. What else do you remember? There were others. Other apex humans hidden across the galaxy. You have been collecting them for decades. Kane nodded. Dr. Rachel Torres is a xenobiologist who can interface directly with alien technology. Her apex event happened when she was trying to save a dying alien child. She reached into the child's mind to understand its biology and accidentally linked herself to every computer on the planet. She activated another holographic display. David Kumar was a soldier who triggered his event during a losing battle. He can manipulate gravitational fields with his thoughts. Last month he moved an asteroid the size of a city just by concentrating on it. Where are they now? Marcus asked. Waiting for you. Your genetic signature acts like a beacon for other apex humans. When you fully awaken, they will be drawn to you. On the main screen, the Galactic fleet was losing badly. The Devourers had extended tendrils from their bioships that wrapped around attacking vessels and began draining them. The ships did not explode, they simply went dark as their energy was absorbed. We need to move now, Kane said. Before they consumed the entire fleet, she led Marcus to a smaller ship that was docked inside the main vessel. This ship is designed to get you close to the lead bioship. Once you are inside, you will need to find the Devourer's core consciousness and destroy it. And how exactly am I supposed to do that? Marcus asked. Trust your instincts. The architects designed you for this. Your body knows what to do even if your mind does not. As Marcus boarded the smaller ship, two other figures emerged from the shadows. The first was a woman in her 40s with short black hair and eyes that seemed to glow with their own inner light. The second was a man about Marcus's age, but there was something different about the way gravity seemed to bend around him. Dr. Rachel Torres, the woman said, extending her hand. And you must be the Marcus that has been causing so much trouble. David Kumar, the man added. I hear you have been breaking things lately. I like that in a person. Marcus shook their hands and felt something click into place in his mind. Standing near other apex humans made his own abilities stronger, clearer. The blue light in his eyes began to pulse in rhythm with theirs. Kane was right, Rachel said as she moved to the ship's technical station. Your awakening triggered ours too. I can interface with the ship's systems now without even touching them. David walked to the pilot's seat, and Marcus could see small objects floating around him, as if gravity had forgotten they existed. I can get us through the Devourer's defenses. Their bioships might be alive, but they still have to follow the laws of physics. The small ship launched from Kane's vessel and accelerated toward the lead bioship. As they approached, Marcus could see that the creature was even more terrifying up close. Its surface was covered in what looked like eyes, all of them tracking their approach. Incoming projectiles, David reported. Biological missiles, big ones. The Devourer was firing living weapons at them. Each missile was the size of a fighter ship and moved with the intelligence of a hunting animal. David raised his hands and the missiles suddenly found themselves pulled off course by invisible gravitational forces. Rachel, can you find us a way inside? Marcus asked. Rachel placed her hands on the ship's control panel and her eyes began to glow brighter. I am scanning the bioship's nervous system. There is an opening near what might be its brain. But Marcus, the creature is aware of us. It knows we are apex humans. As if responding to her words, the bioship suddenly changed course. Instead of continuing toward the Galactic fleet, it began moving directly toward their small ship. It wants us, David said. All of them do. The Devourers feed on life energy, and apex humans generate more life energy than entire planets. Marcus felt something building inside him. The blue light that had been glowing in his eyes was now covering his entire body. He could feel his cellular structure changing, adapting, becoming something more than human. Get me inside that thing, he said. I know what I need to do. David used his gravitational powers to punch a hole through the bioship's outer skin. Rachel guided their ship through the opening and into the creature's interior. Inside the Devourer was like being inside a living nightmare. The walls pulsed with veins that carried glowing fluid. The air itself seemed to be alive, reaching out toward them with hungry tendrils. The core is deeper inside, Rachel said. But Marcus, I am detecting something else. This bioship is not just alive, it is intelligent, ancient. It has memories going back millions of years. Marcus stepped out of the ship and into the creature's body. The moment his feet touched the living floor, he felt the Devourer's consciousness press against his mind. It was vast, alien, filled with hunger that had been growing for eons. But as the creature tried to drain his life energy, something unexpected happened. Instead of being weakened, Marcus grew stronger. The blue light around him began to burn brighter, and he could feel his genetic programming activating fully for the first time. "You made a mistake," Marcus said to the intelligence that surrounded him. "Humans do not just fight. We adapt." He began walking deeper into the bioship, and with each step the blue energy around him grew more intense. The creature's living walls began to smoke where the energy touched them. Marcus was not just resisting the Devourer's feeding, he was turning its own power against it. Behind him, Rachel and David followed, their own abilities growing stronger as they stayed near Marcus. Rachel could now interface with the bioship's nervous system directly, feeling its pain and confusion as Marcus burned it from the inside. David created gravitational fields that crushed the creature's internal organs as they passed. "The core is just ahead," Rachel said. "But Marcus, the other bioships are converging on our position. They know their leader is in danger." Marcus could feel them coming. 11 more Devourers, all focused on saving their leader and destroying the humans who had invaded it. But instead of fear, he felt something else rising inside him. For the first time in his life, Marcus stopped fighting what he was and embraced it completely. The blue light around him exploded outward, filling the entire bioship with energy that unmade the creature's molecular structure. The Devourer's death scream echoed across space as its bioship began to dissolve, but Marcus was not finished. Standing in the wreckage of the creature's core, he reached out with senses he had never known he possessed, and touched the minds of the other 11 Devourers. What he found there changed everything. The Devourers were not just hungry monsters. They were running from something that had been hunting them across the galaxy for millions of years. "David, Rachel," Marcus said as his power continued to grow, "we need to get back to Kane immediately." "The Devourers are not the real threat." "What do you mean?" Rachel asked. Marcus looked at them with eyes that now blazed like blue stars. "The architects are coming back, and they are not here to help." At its strongest, the story of that damned human. The space around the destroyed bioship began to tear open like fabric being ripped apart. Through the dimensional holes came ships that hurt to look at directly. They were not built, they were grown from mathematics and starlight. The architects had returned after millions of years of absence. On Kane's command ship, emergency alarms screamed as sensors tried to process readings that broke every law of physics. Vex watched the viewing screen show impossible geometries that made his brain ache. "Director Kane," he said, his voice tight with fear. "What exactly are the architects?" Kane stood frozen at her control station, her face pale as she stared at the approaching ships. For the first time since Vex had met her, she looked afraid. "They are our creators," she said quietly, "and they have come to end their experiment." Marcus materialized on the bridge in a flash of blue light, bringing Rachel and David with him. His transportation ability was new, triggered by the crisis they faced. The 3 apex humans stood together, their combined energy making the air itself glow. "Kane," Marcus said, his voice carrying power that made the ship's hull vibrate. "You are not just Threshold Division's director. You are one of them." Kane's human appearance began to fade, revealing something underneath that was both beautiful and terrifying. Her skin became translucent, showing patterns of light flowing beneath the surface. Her eyes changed to pure silver, reflecting depths that seemed to go on forever. "I am a hybrid," she admitted, "created to guide humanity's development until the architects decided whether your species was worthy of survival." "And their verdict?" Vex asked, though he feared the answer. "Humanity has exceeded expectations in some ways and failed in others. The architects have decided to preserve the successful specimens and reset the galaxy. Every other species will be recycled into raw materials for the next experiment." The lead architect ship sent a communication that bypassed all technology and spoke directly into their minds. The voice was vast, ancient, and completely without mercy. "Greetings, our children. We have observed your growth with interest. Some of you have achieved the potential we programmed into your genetics. Others remain disappointingly limited. We will now separate the worthy from the flawed." Marcus stepped forward, his blue energy flaring brighter. "And if we refuse to be separated? Then you will be recycled along with the rest of this galaxy's failed experiment." The architect ships began to project energy fields that touched every planet in the system. On each world, humans began to glow with the same blue light as Marcus. But not all of them. Only about 1 in a million showed the activation signature. They are marking the apex humans, Rachel said, her ability to interface with alien technology allowing her to understand the architect systems. Everyone else is being tagged for disposal. Vex felt sick. How many humans are there in the galaxy? About 50 billion, Kane replied. The architects will save maybe 50,000. Everyone else dies. David's gravitational powers began to fluctuate wildly as anger filled him. Around the ship, small objects began floating and spinning. We cannot let them do this. You cannot stop us, young one, the architect voice said, reading David's thoughts without effort. We created you. We control you. You exist only because we allow it. But Marcus was no longer listening to the architects. Deep inside his mind, he could feel something his creators had not expected. The genetic programming they had installed in humans millions of years ago had been changed by human experience. Love, friendship, sacrifice, hope. These emotions had rewritten the architect code. Kane, Marcus said, turning to face the hybrid woman. You have been with humans for 50 years. Have you learned anything from us? Kane looked confused. I learned that humans are chaotic, unpredictable, often violent, but also capable of surprising compassion. Then you know why we cannot let this happen. Marcus reached out with his mind and touched every apex human in the galaxy. There were more of them than the architects realized. Not 50,000, but nearly 1 million. And as Marcus connected with them, he shared something the architects had never programmed into their creation. He shared the choice to be human instead of superhuman. Across the galaxy, apex humans felt Marcus's call. Some answered immediately, adding their power to his growing network. Others hesitated, tempted by the architect offer of safety and superiority. But most chose to stand with Marcus, choosing to save everyone instead of just themselves. The combined power of 1 million apex humans created an energy field that reached across space and time. The architects, confident in their control over their creations, suddenly found themselves facing something they had never encountered before, free will backed by unlimited power. Impossible, the architect voice said, and for the first time it carried emotion, fear. You are our creation. You cannot oppose us. Marcus rose into the air, his body now glowing so brightly it was hard to look at him directly. Around him, Rachel and David floated as well, their own powers amplified by their connection to the growing network of apex humans. You created our bodies, Marcus said, his voice now heard by every living being in the galaxy. But you did not create our choices. We choose to be more than weapons. We choose to protect everyone, not just ourselves. The battle that followed was fought across multiple dimensions. The architects used technology that could reshape reality itself. They created storms of pure mathematics that tried to reduce Marcus and his allies to basic equations. They opened holes in space that led to dead universes where life had never existed. But Marcus and the apex human network fought back with something the architects could not understand or counter. They fought with love for species they had never met, with determination to protect people who feared them, with hope for a future where everyone could coexist. The turning point came when Marcus realized that defeating the architects was not enough. If he destroyed them using the full power of his abilities, he would become exactly what the galaxy feared humans might be, a species so powerful that everyone else lived at their mercy. Instead, Marcus made a choice that surprised everyone, including himself. He used his power not to destroy the architects, but to sever humanity's connection to their genetic programming. Every apex human in the galaxy suddenly felt their abilities fade. They were still stronger and faster than No. At its strongest, the story of that damned human Xarmal humans, but the godlike powers were gone. What have you done? Kane asked, her own hybrid nature flickering as the architect technology inside her began to fail. I made us human, Marcus replied. Really human. Not weapons, not gods, just people who happen to be a little different. The architects, faced with creations who had voluntarily given up ultimate power to preserve their humanity, made a decision that surprised everyone. Instead of destroying the galaxy, they chose to leave. Their ships faded away into dimensions unknown, carrying with them a lesson about the value of choosing limitation over domination. In the aftermath, as the galaxy tried to process what had happened, Marcus found himself standing on the bridge of Vex's ship. He looked tired but peaceful. The blue light in his eyes was gone, replaced by simple brown eyes that were unmistakably human. "So what now?" Vex asked. "The galaxy knows what humans really are. That you were created as weapons," Marcus smiled. "Now we prove that knowing where you come from does not determine where you are going. We show everyone that being artificial does not make you less real. And we build a future where being different is not something to fear." Dara looked up from her scanning station. "Marcus, I am not reading any of the energy signatures you showed before. Are your abilities really gone?" Marcus considered the question. Deep inside, he could still feel the potential for power, but it was quiet now, controlled, waiting for him to choose when and how to use it. "Not gone," he said, "just sleeping until they are really needed. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is choose not to use your strength." 6 months later, Vex watched human children playing with Altarian youngsters in a park on New Geneva Station. The humans were faster and stronger than their alien friends, but they were also careful, gentle, protective of those who were more fragile than themselves. Marcus worked as an engineer again, fixing things instead of breaking them. But everyone in the galaxy knew that if another threat like the Devourers ever appeared, humanity would be ready. Not as weapons, but as guardians who had chosen to use their gifts to protect others. The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest strength was not their hidden power, but their willingness to limit that power for the good of everyone. And in a universe full of species who had gained strength through conquest, humans had proven that true strength sometimes meant choosing restraint over dominance. It was a lesson that would echo through the stars for generations to come.